The theme of the session is Trade in Services, Deeper Engagement of India and ASEAN. The services sector has vast potential and has contributed immensely to the economic growth of India and most of the ASEAN economies. There is enormous potential in tourism, hospitality services, IT, education, collaboration in science and technology, financing services, and healthcare between India and countries of the region. We are honored to have with us Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, Honorable Minister for Electronics and Information Technology and Law and Justice, Government of India, Mr. C.R. Chaudhary, Honorable Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Government of India, His Excellency, Mr. Yu Kin Muang Cho, Honorable Union Minister of Industry, Republic of the Union of Myanmar, Mr. Anup Vadhavan, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, Mr. Anurag Mishra, Principal Trade Officer, International Finance Corporation, Mr. Subhash Goel, immediate past President IATO and Chairman STIC Travels Private Limited, Mr. Jagdish Mitra, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer, Head Growth Factories Tech Mahindra Limited, and Mr. Rajan Navani, Chairman CII Council on Future Business and Managing Director, Jetline Group of Companies. I request Mr. Rajan Navani, Chairman CII, Council on Future Business and Managing Director, Jetline Group of Companies, to kindly render the welcome address.
Your Excellency, Honorable Minister for IT, Electronics and Information Technology, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, Minister Chaudhary, His Excellency, Mr. Kin Mong Chao, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Additional Secretary from the Ministry, who is also available here with us. Very warm welcome to all of you. We are indeed very privileged to have such a distinguished set of speakers for this very interesting discussion that we are having today on a deeper engagement of the India and ASEAN and the trade in services, and how we can really look at growing and expanding this massive opportunity that exists between our two regions. If we really look at the overall size of India and ASEAN put together, we stand at over 1.8 billion people. The opportunity for providing these services in all of the areas is actually extremely large. Very often we look at what is it that partnerships mean, what is it that companies in the regions and governments in the region can do together. Very often we talk of innovation in terms of products and markets and services, but I think one of the areas in which we can really look and build a very strong relationship, particularly in services between our two countries, is if we can really look at policy itself as an innovation. I think if we can create innovative policies that can enable both India and within the ASEAN region to work together, to look at it in a completely different manner, I think the opportunity that we can unfold together is humongous. You know, sometimes if we look at working with the right partner from a different country, bringing complementary skill sets that can come together, I think the solutions that would emerge are ones that have the ability to impact not only our respective regions, but also, you know, the entire global world at large. And therein I see the opportunity for a lot of India and ASEAN work happening together and coming together to really be able to identify, you know, and grow some of these larger opportunities. If we were to look at just some select areas, if you were to look at fintech or hospitality or healthcare, I think in each of these areas, there is an opportunity which is unique, one that can drive different levels of price performance, ones that can drive different levels of emerging technologies new business models that can all come together in this rapidly changing world and actually enable our two countries to get significant leadership over a period of time. Within the ASEAN, we have always had a very deep understanding of different cultures, different capabilities amongst the several countries actually coming forth very distinctly. And I think if we combine India and ASEAN together, we can get many pioneering examples of what the potential of this can be. We are talking today of a shared history or a shared relationship of 25 years, but I think the history and the shared values of our two regions goes back long, long before that. We ourselves come from a family where my grandfather went to Thailand in the early 30s, set up traditional businesses, and I am back now in India for the last 15 years, adventuring into new age businesses, into digital technologies, which have been pushed significantly through the vision of Prime Minister Modi's Digital India, Skill India. And I think a lot of these new opportunities that have opened up in countries like India can grossly leverage the two ecosystems to create significant solutions. We do have with us a very distinguished set of speakers today. We do have with us a very interesting perspective on what different countries can offer, and I really look forward to having a very engaging interaction over the next 1 hour. A very warm welcome again to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, sir. I now request Mr. Jagdish Mitra, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer, Head Growth Factories, Tech Mahindra Limited, to kindly speak on the occasion.
Thank you. It's my distinct honor to be given an opportunity to talk about technology, about services, and the opportunity to collaborate. But before I do that, I want to address the Honorable Minister of Industry, Republic of the Union of Myanmar, Mr. King Maung Cho, as a guest, and then our own Honorable Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad ji for being here, and the Minister of Trade, as well as the different secretaries here and the dignitaries for this opportunity to talk about what are the possibilities of technology here and the IT services industry to contribute as we start going into the 25th year, which is pretty much a fairly young age for this relationship, but a mature relationship to develop into something more meaningful as a collaboration between the ASEAN countries and India. I'm going to talk about three specific topics as being a representative of a fairly large technology company like Tech Mahindra, as well as the IT services industry from NASSCOM. We've constantly seen a trend in the direction of everyone talking about mobile first. So any discussion that industries have today or businesses have today, and even the government has today, is all about moving technology to mobile. And so my first conversation and section of my speech will talk about the opportunity in this region of collaborating and creating and addressing probably 20 to 25% of the world's mobile consumers. Between India and ASEAN countries, we talk about approximately about 2 billion mobile users that can be targeted, and therefore a lot of innovation can be built around it. My second section is going to be small about what we in Tech Mahindra and the Mahindra Group have achieved and in this region and how strongly we believe. And the third will be about really using technology to drive what is the next opportunity for growth in this region, which is about creating jobs, creating innovation, and creating startups within this area for the cooperation to survive. As you know, ASEAN has achieved a measure of success as it continues to link economies and pursue integration and cooperation with strategic external partners. We are working day and night to ensure good governance, which includes easy and effective and transparent governance. To give you an example, in India, we've started an open auction for natural resources, including telecom spectrum, coal mines, and other minerals. This has together contributed about $75 billion in revenue. So using technology, we are enhancing responsibility and reducing discretion and corruption. We are using our own unique ID system in financial transactions and taxation, and extremely proud to say that we in Tech Mahindra have played a critical role in enabling the digital economy through providing the contact center support during the launch of, after we had the demonetization. And for this purpose, the results are already visible. The number of new taxpayers filing income tax returns has more than doubled. Digital transactions have increased by 34% in just 1 year. As online citizen engagement platform, MyGov has harnessed ideas, suggestions, and inputs on policies and programs from 2 million proactive citizens who have provided ideas here. India in this range has climbed 30 places in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business Index this year. It is the biggest jump by any country this year and a recognition of India's long-term reform trajectory. So why is this connected? I think the reason why I'm trying to connect this is that technology played a critical role, and the Digital India program played a critical role in enabling the growth of India's movement as an ease of trade or an ease of work doing business here. And the reason why I thought it's important for us to look at it is that as we start to look at this industry and look at what the ASEAN countries have achieved, whether it's Singapore, whether it's Philippines, whether it's Myanmar, and the way it's growing its business, there's a lot of cooperation between the use of e-governance and m-governance sharing, the technology platforms that we have created in India, the technology platforms that have got created in these markets to be shared with each other for ultimately the citizens to benefit and for the citizens to look at, how do we deliver a better governance to our customers. The world is really taking notice of this. We have not only moved the places in the Global Competitive Index, but we have also moved 21 places on the Global Innovation Index. To me, I think this is where the Startup India program and the Digital India program and the Skills India program, all of them converge. Because once the Startup and the Digital India and the Skills India program are able to create these innovation indices and take leverage of what the ASEAN countries are doing and share how we are driving the program, we can create multiple small startup industries and smarter businesses which can be leveraged to create opportunities and jobs and convert our markets into a knowledge economy from where we are today. I also want to highlight what the challenges are. ASEAN faces some key challenges that will test the resilience of the governments. Business and tech life cycles are moving at a faster pace. The rise of the disruptive platforms and their impact on services. So we constantly hear things like artificial intelligence or machine learning will take jobs away. I think that fear needs to be countered by leverage of AI and machine learning and data and analytics to come together and create new businesses. The world today is going to be about creation of new businesses rather than looking at jobs that will go away. And therefore, I said that, the collection of Skills India, Digital India and Startup India have to all move in the same pace as we are doing here in India, so that while the world starts to move away from a services and a workforce-based economy to one that's using things like factory of future in manufacturing or IoT-based enablement of systems, we'll be able to leverage the skills to create knowledge economies. Finally, in conclusion, I want to bring in some of the examples that digitization can accelerate the growth for countries. Currently, Singapore and Thailand lead the region in terms of both broadband and mobile internet speed. The good news is that countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Philippines are heavily investing in deploying their national broadband networks and therefore convert the whole nation into a smart nation. As we drive our smart cities program with the 100 cities that we have identified in India, I think this is a huge collaboration opportunity for ASEAN and India to collaborate and create a world-class setup for Digital India and Digital ASEAN and India together. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite Mr. Subhash Goyal, immediate past President IOTO and Chairman STIC Travels Private Limited, for his address.
Your Excellencies, the Honorable Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad, Honorable Minister from Myanmar, and Honorable Ministers from all the ASEAN countries. On behalf of the tourism industry of this country, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to you. This is an historical conference, and I think we have to achieve something out of this conference. Indian tourism has been going to all the ASEAN countries. Thailand, we have over 1 million Indian tourists who go there. And one of the main reasons is that Thailand has always had visa on arrival for the Indian tourists. Similarly, Malaysia and Singapore have e-visa, and I think it has become very easy. Philippines has given visa on arrival to Indians. So one or two other countries which are left, I think it will be a great opportunity, because outbound tourism from India is around 60 million, and the domestic people who travel within India by air, about 20 years back, it was only 5 million, and last year, over 60 million people traveled. So the whole idea, and Indians are the #1 shoppers in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Thailand, they are #2 because there are, I think, about 38,000 Japanese. So even if they buy fish, it's counted as shopping. So we are not only in ASEAN countries, but also in, Switzerland, in London, Indians are #1 shoppers. So for this, our Prime Minister, the previous, during Mr. Bajpai, at the Indo-ASEAN Summit in Indonesia, declared an open sky for ASEAN countries, because that time only 3 ASEAN countries were flying to India. And that is that this offer was made by the government of India, and announced at the Indo-ASEAN, in the ASEAN Summit in Indonesia. And it's unfortunate that many airlines from the ASEAN countries have not taken benefit of this offer. Because unless there is connectivity, trade between ASEAN and India cannot, or within the ASEAN countries cannot grow. So it is very important that, we have to have these communication channels. For India, you see, with the event of technology, mechanization of agriculture, a lot of, people are coming into the, cities in search of jobs. And the result is that there's a lot of migration problem, and this is not only in India, but in many ASEAN countries. So the only way to solve it is to develop local tourism. So India is focusing a lot on rural tourism. And second thing, which the Honorable Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad ji did, along with the Home Ministry, was this government did e-visa. For 20 years, as president of the industry, we were fighting for e-visa, and it was not being done. So this government, the Home Minister and the Honorable IT Minister, started e-visa. Today in 160 countries, we have e-visa. But I think within ASEAN, we need to have that. Secondly, we must think of joint, promotions in international bodies, because the services sector, being labor intensive, you see, is the only solution for our region. Because, China has already become the factory of the world, and India is the back office of the world. But a lot of ASEAN countries like Philippines, you see, has also gone towards technology. And Indian companies have offices, and we are collaborating with IT companies in Manila. So a lot of collaboration on the tourism front, on IT front, can be done. And the third sector is medical tourism, because India, has today some of the world's best class hospitals, And, the treatment, whether it's a heart surgery, whether it is, any transplant or anything, what you can do in Europe and America can be done for 1/3 or 1/4 the price. So this is not only an opportunity for India. I think Thailand is also doing a lot in medical tourism, but Singapore has started, but other ASEAN countries need to think of, because we have the quality of personalized service which we have in the ASEAN region and the South Asia region is nowhere else on this planet. By nature, by philosophy, whether it's the influence of Buddhism or whatever it is, we people in the ASEAN belt are more service oriented. So the services sector today, India, just in the month of September, we had crossed about $14 billion in September. Compared to the previous year, we had only $13 billion of services export. And in the last, India is, really progressing. And for India, total exports, I think the services exports are about 55% of this. So these are some of the ideas which I thought from the tourism industry point of view, I could put to the floor. And we have the honorable ministers and decision makers from all the ASEAN countries. So we could come to a consensus on at least the visa regime and connecting, the ASEAN countries with India, because India today, is one of the most interesting, not only consumer market, but also the outbound tourism market in India. With these words, I'd like to express my gratitude and thanks to CII for giving me this opportunity. And how many of the ASEAN delegates have come for the first time? So I think you've all been to India. So you should send more and more people. We are one of the greatest show on planet Earth. We have, 74% of the Himalayan mountains and, 7,000 kilometers of coastline and 5,000 kilometers of mangrove forests. And we are the birthplace of 4 great religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism. Islam originated in the Middle East, but the spiritual side of Islam, Sufism, flourished in India. With these words, we are all willing to go to the beautiful ASEAN countries, and we invite all the ASEAN countries to please come to India. And in travel and tourism, trade and services will automatically prosper. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you. I now request Mr. Anup Vadhavan, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, to kindly deliver the special address.
His Excellency Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, Union Minister for Electronics, IT and Law and Justice, Government of India. His Excellency Mr. Khin Wong Cho, Minister of Industry, Government of Myanmar. Distinguished dignitaries on the dais, delegates from India and ASEAN countries, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to be here at this very important session on services. Today, services, as we all know, is a key area of economic ties across countries, and that is very much true for India and the ASEAN too. Services trade, services opportunities, services ties constitute a very, very important part of the India-ASEAN economic relationship. Services today, as we all know, are key contributors to the GDPs, to employment, to trade, and also FDI flows across the globe. In fact, statistics for India show that over 50% of the FDI into India over the last 15 to 17 years has been in the area of services. In 16-17, over 65% of the total investment FDI into India was in the services sector. Unfortunately, traditionally, services have not received the same importance as goods as a key element of trade. And I think there are reasons for this, partly because there are issues of tradability of services. By definition and by their very nature, services are to some extent less tradable than goods. And there is also the issue of the lack of data capture. For goods trade, data is captured very efficiently, through shipping bills and bills of entry and documentation like that. They're also very amenable to IT innovations for comprehensive capture of data. Unfortunately, services data, especially for trade, has not been captured very accurately historically. And to that extent, the importance of services has not been highlighted to the same extent. However, this scenario is changing very, very fast, as the speakers before me alluded to. We see today a complete revolution in the technical and technological aspects of services trade, which has enhanced the tradability of services. You have today services increasingly embedded in goods. Goods always had a services content which was latent and understated. Without a services element, you cannot trade, you cannot produce goods, you cannot trade goods. So services always had goods always had a services element, and that has been enhanced over time. The embedded services and goods, with smart goods coming in, with Industry 4.0 coming in, the embedded services element is of a very, very critical nature, even in terms of the value of contribution to the value of the good. The contribution of services embedded in goods is very high. The IPR content, which is in the nature of a non-material content, to some extent, it's a element of service. The IPR content dominates key products. You look at the Apple iPhone, the cost or value of the metal and plastic is minimal as compared to the IPR content, the technology content, the software content. So with technology, we see increasing scope for services trade embedded in goods and also services trade per se. The entire scope of electronic transfer has been revolutionized. With 3D printing, a large element of goods trade would be converted into services trade. So here again, electronic transfer will revolutionize the scope for services trade. And some services which were earlier considered non-tradable, seeing a doctor, seeking legal advice, seeking medical advice, with technology, all those areas are also revolutionized. And I think we will increasingly see greater and greater tradability of services, greater and greater contribution of services to overall trade between countries. And I think there is increasing realization today that services deserve the same importance as goods, both in the area of trade liberalization and in the area of trade facilitation. If you look at the goods side, since World War II, the world has entered into several formal agreements to liberalize good trades, to facilitate goods trade. We've had the trade facilitation agreement for goods signed recently. Similar steps need to be taken both at the multilateral front, at the bilateral and regional front to liberalize services trade, to facilitate services trade. And I'm happy to mention here that India has a proposal on trade facilitation in services at the WTO, which envisages facilitation of services trade on the same lines as the world has seen facilitation in goods trade. Another aspect we need to recognize that you cannot achieve the full scope of the economic relationship potential between countries without encouraging services. You cannot envisage, for instance, any meaningful goods trade without similar openness in services. If you're exporting capital goods, you're exporting turbines, heavy machinery, you require a services element for installation, for on-site training, for on-site problem solving, maintenance. So all these aspects. Project exports. Project exports contain elements of both goods and services. They are key areas of an economic relationship between countries. So you cannot envisage a trading relationship in goods without adequate supporting trade in services. We need to recognize that. Unfortunately, services has seen a lot of, if I may use the term, misplaced sensitivities, which have come in the way of, greater liberalization, greater facilitation. Services trade often involves temporary movement of services. I think those of us who are here from the IT industry, they will recognize the role of temporary movement of professionals in services trade. And that has tended to get confused with, convoluted and somewhat complex issues like immigration, sensitive issues like immigration. There is an impression created that services trade somehow leads to job displacement, whereas the facts are entirely to the contrary. Services trade, for instance, our IT relationship with the world and the ASEAN countries in particular has seen huge investment by Indian companies in ASEAN, across the globe, and creation of huge number of jobs by Indian companies. I think in the ASEAN region itself, Indian companies have created over 200,000 jobs. 70% of the jobs created by Indian companies in the ASEAN countries are local jobs. So many of these misconceptions, I think we all need to confront and, clarify and ensure that such, inaccurate beliefs do not come in the way of promoting services trade, promoting services facilitation. And in many ways, the impact on other economies of services trade is far less in terms of the adverse element than goods trade. Goods trade will tend to displace some jobs. It will tend to create competition for local manufacturers. Whereas services trade, as I've just mentioned, sees a large element of investment in foreign locations, large amount of job creation in foreign locations. So I think I would urge all of us present here to appreciate the underlying rationale for promoting services in terms of supporting the overall economic relationship across goods, across investment, in terms of the huge potential for investment and local job creation, and work towards overcoming resistance, vested interests that come in the way of promoting our relationship in services trade to greater heights. And looking at the India-ASEAN relationship in particular, let me also mention that our services trade is to the tune of about $10 billion. I think India imports services from the ASEAN region to the tune of about $5.5 billion and exports to the tune of about $4.5 billion. So contrary to whatever impressions we may have, the fact is that even in services trade, India has a trade deficit with the ASEAN. We are importing more services than we are exporting to the ASEAN, which is contrary to the general belief people sometimes have, based entirely on the IT sector perspective, whereas services trade spreads across so many areas. There are financial services we import from the ASEAN. There are transportation services. There are services, business services. So services trade has a very wide spectrum of areas encompassed in it, and we shouldn't, see it as a narrow sort of IT sector aspect or, restricted to certain key areas. So let me conclude by wishing all of you a very meaningful participation in the events we've envisaged since yesterday, which will go on later today. And let me conclude by thanking the organizers for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I now request His Excellency Mr. U Kin Wang Cho, Honorable Union Minister for Industry, Republic of the Union of Myanmar, to kindly deliver his special address.
Good morning, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today it is my great pleasure and I feel greatly honored for this opportunity to have a speech for a special address for the deeper engagement of India and ASEAN. First and foremost, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry of India for the precious effort for promoting ASEAN-India cooperation in trade and services, Confederation of India Industry in organizing this event, and to all representatives for their warm welcome and generous hospitality. As you are all aware, ASEAN-India relations have grown rapidly in the 1992 and further accelerated with the convening of the ASEAN-India Summit in promoting the plan of action to implement the ASEAN-India Partnership of Peace, Progress, and Shared Prosperity 2016 to 2020. The POA 2016 to 2020 spells out and sets the causes of the joint actions, practical cooperation, and concentrate projects and activities. So in this connection with this section, let me explain a little bit more about our country, Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. No matter how you call Myanmar or Burma, we are the same family of ASEAN countries, especially the India here now, because most of our people, Myanmar or Burmese, all stay here in India, and also some Indian people staying in Burma for a long time. So it is a good relations between Myanmar and India because we have a long history before, and we cooperate each other, not only in the economy, but also for the family-like habits. Our one of the distinctive, very clear attitude is terms and some foods are almost all the same as Myanmar and India. That's why we have a long tradition of the Indian foods in Myanmar, something like the roti or chapati or whatever. Even for the potato, we call the same like aloo in Myanmar language. So that is the most important thing, because that is what I like to emphasize. The Myanmar and Indian are almost the same and also near, closer to each other. Nowadays, we are very close, more closer, because of this kind of events we have already arranged. So let me go a little more about economic cooperation between ASEAN and India. It remained relatively low compared with other dialogue partners in the former decades. However, foreign direct investments, FDI, law is also flown from the India to ASEAN increased by 9.4% from 0.96 billion US dollars in 2015 to 1.05 billion US dollar in 2016. On the other hand, trade between India and ASEAN is targeted to double up by 2022 from an estimated of 100 billion US dollar in this year alone. This estimation comes from the implementation of ASEAN-India Free Trade Agreement that was signed in 2009 has already resulted in a significant increase in trade between the two economies to over 74 billion US dollar in the next year. According to the business ties between two economies, the trade level is below our true potential and hope that the FTAs in goods, when reviewed, will lead to better efficiency and results. Also, this section will discuss a way to boost up economic ties and strengthen up political connections and civil society interaction between those involved. So, Myanmar and India, we have a long history, as I mentioned before. Nowadays, we are in the IT age, because in this age, everybody is closer and closer, and also we can communicate each other better. So, one of the most important idea we like to mention is we have to use up all the information technology as much as possible in every area. So, as I am responsible for the Ministry of Industry in Myanmar, but not only for this industry, but all for other ministries like Hotel and Tourism, or Ministry of Commerce, or Education, or whatever, we have to cooperate more and more through this ASEAN agreement. So our policy in Myanmar to educate our people as much as possible. Also, our idea is not only to concentrate on the technology alone, but our technology, we have the one solution that is a common denominator we have to do is the technology. We have to go through technologies to use up in any aspects in daily life, so we can generate more and more activities and job opportunities for everybody, starting from the human resources development. So among these younger generations, it is very important to mention that your Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, have mentioned long time before and even recently, whatever the future is we desire of, we must keep youth at the center. So we are also, with the same way, to put the younger generation in the center in order to handle the future in their hand. So it is very important. The youth for our nation is tremendous energy of the youth, and distinctive efforts from the outcomes have to exploit for the nations. So ASEAN have to concentrate on the younger generation in order to sustainable development for the future of every nations. So as for Myanmar, it is found to be trading at about 15% of the potential, mostly by the SMEs from the younger generations. The bulk of this gap is explained by very low trade with the industrialized countries. But the reintegration with the world economy compared by deep economics reforms domestically, Myanmar would be expected to be closing this gap rather swiftly. If we have a glance to Myanmar's trading, Myanmar's export basket is heavy in fuels, natural gas, foods and other primary commodities, including precious stones and gems, which together constitute nearly 90% of total exports. Myanmar's gradual integration with the world economy and normalized, unsanctioned access to the European and American markets may thus be expected to fill this gap at least in this part. For particular importance are in the process of hindrance to growth by enhancing institutional and business environment, modernizing the financial sectors, liberalizing state and foreign direct investments in order to for the systematic and effective implementation for deeper engagement and inclusive development, and comprehensive and workable policies and laws would definitely be required, and these laws would be provided as a baseline towards the progress of ASEAN-India economy as a whole. In addition to this, our effort should focus on how to integrate the policies in order to provide incentives and exemptions that figure out about the outcomes of better collaboration, mainly in better jobs and higher incomes, better returns on goods sold, greater affordability of essential goods and services. Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, in ASEAN, that is very important in processing the harmonization of related products standards with 11 working groups in order to encourage the ASEAN integration on standards conference as well as to reform Myanmar manufacturing sector. But now for Myanmar, it is a very hard time to start up because we have almost no standardization in the industry at all. So we are going to start up new industrial standard in Myanmar, like the Indian standard or some other standards. We will announce very soon. So with the use of this standard, the government of Myanmar initiated the standardization program since 2013. And some relevant industrial products is one of the sensitive issues, and it is really important not only for industrial development, but also to assess regional and global market after enforcing the ASEAN integration. Regarding to this ASEAN integration on standards and quality, Minister of Industry is responsible for 3 working groups, namely JSC, EEE, RBPWG, and APWG as a focal ministry. We are doing right now for starting up some chemical industry. And currently we are trying to improve Myanmar automotive industry also and refining our automotive policy before and law. Amendment process on the automobile law before is ongoing. So far according to Myanmar stakeholders' comments and suggestions. That is very important for the Myanmar for the time because we have changed a lot of policies already in Myanmar for importation and also for the even for the driving systems. But long time before we are among ASEAN countries like India because we are the British colonial country before and we used to be to the left-hand drive before, but now in a few years back we have changed to the right-hand drive. So in our law, we have to follow up those laws according to the driving system. That is the right-hand drive system. So nowadays, we are trying to finalize this policy and coming into effective very soon. Moreover, Ministry of Industry is also trying to regulate the standardization for the component parts for the automotive industries. So 19 components and systems gone to the harmonization with UN regulations. So cooperation in this area of some kind of new technologies in the electric vehicles production, along with the related batteries or transfer of technologies on charging stations or maintenance systems as well. That is very important for the time being, as we are very aware of energy sector and pollution from those harmful emissions from the cars and automobiles. So our country have to set country standard as the emission standards for the automobiles using nowadays. So that is very critical issues for Myanmar because of the higher tech engines and systems are using a very high standard, emission standard, and also using the very fine fuels impossible in Myanmar nowadays. So we have to be very careful for the availability of the clean fuels for our new technologies. But for electric vehicles, that is almost clean technologies forever. So we are starting with the electric also to start up the Myanmar automotive policies very rapidly. So another one point to mention is not only for the electric versions, some other alternative type of fuels can be used in Myanmar as long time before we used for the CNG gas or LPG gas to use to drive the cars. But nowadays there is a lack of the availability of the CNG gas, so it is almost stopped now. but we have to find out some other ways to provide the proper fuels for the transportation for day to day. So that can make a sense of address the challenges of the environmental issues through the use of cleaner, greener technologies and sustainable forever. Such cooperation can also facilitate the regional smart cities development also. So we have our town planning for the new government. We have to increase our industrial zones all over the Myanmar. So in this aspect, we need a special design and developer to come over to Myanmar to check, to cooperate and participate in the smart cities development. Myanmar needs knowledges and standardization and some guidelines from the ASEAN Indian member countries in order to speed up our standardization process. So I would like to ask our member states to share your experience and knowledges on automotive standards and regulations and helping and ensure the safety, quality, and effectiveness of the products and services. And also there are one remaining issues to consider in Myanmar right now, is Myanmar have no supporting industries for the automobile, any kinds of industry as well, because of the lack of technologies and skillful labors. So nowadays, we are planning to train our younger generation, even some workers in the meantime, for the proper training, especially for the vocational training centers. So it is quite a good coincidence for Myanmar right now, because we are going to sign up one MOU between Indian government and Myanmar for two special cases. There's one for the textile and garment industry at the Upper Myanmar very soon. Another one for the rubber and tires and rubber-based technologies and maybe some cosmetic industries in the Lower Myanmar near the Thonville city. So that is a point I'd like to mention. These two industrial revolution, starting from these vocational training centers, together with the Indian government, shall be signed very soon with the visit of our state councillor, Excellency Aung San Suu Kyi will visit very soon. She will have a signing ceremony for this project. And another one for the HRD, Human Resources Development, shall be goes to the one industrial training school managed by the Indian government before, that is the Hindustani Machine Tools Department. They have provided for the almost all to review all the machineries and equipment and even for the curriculums for the training. So let me emphasize on one important curriculum to be provided is the innovative ideas starting from the design and innovative training. That is very important for the younger generation to innovate new ideas very rapidly. So in this sense, one of the most important things is the design of the new products, and the specifications very important to specify definitely in the beginning time. So we have some vocational training schools specially designed for the design and drafting of the mechanical parts and also of the electronics. That is done by the German government before in the near central Burma, that is near Prom, PA. So GIZ have provided some new technologies and training equipments to those vocational schools. So in that sense, we have some automotive mechanics course is already done with the new technical development systems. But one is missing to fulfill is for the mass production. That is very important to make the design or some small tools for the mass production consistently according to the design and specifications. That is the jigs and fixture design. So I have learned that kind of subjects long time before in Japan through the Toyota and Nippon Denso before. Like that kind of jigs and fixture design should be provided for the younger generations in order to manufacture quality products consistently for all any production. Because for the SMEs to boost up right now, they may have some kinds of knowledges and production facilities, but it's not up-to-date technologies, and they can not assure of the performance and quality for every product. That is very important for the Myanmar right now to be able to catch up those very simple and effective usage of the jigs and fixtures to use for the proper design consistently forever. So that kind of jigs and fixture design is, I have learned that in Hyderabad, in here, it's a very famous training here, where we can make some design jigs and fixtures, even for the tools and dies making courses. Some of the engineers from Myanmar have already trained over there, but it is a high-tech engineering subjects to start up. It's only suitable for the engineers and some higher ranks officials, but not for the younger skillful laborers. So we have to be competitive with those compatible engineers and workers and mechanics should be work in hand together with the help of those effective technologies to use. So in my conclusion, for the accelerated economic development between ASEAN and India, declining tariff levels under ASEAN and India trades in goods management, increasing urbanization and new special economic zones along the borders, border trade between ASEAN and India should be strongly implemented, and we have to take efforts in these areas by cooperating each other. I also would like to hand in hand with all of you towards the betterment of ASEAN-India relations. Before the conclusion, let me say that the message from our government is going to privatize most of our state-owned enterprises and factories, known as SOEs, to reform into the private-public partnership models as soon as possible. So I can provide the list, a long list of about 59 factories still available to privatize soon. So everybody who is willing to cooperate with us, when we welcome here, and we can provide you all the lists, and we are hoping to cooperate with India more and more very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your special address. I now request Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, Honorable Minister for Electronics and Information Technology and Law and Justice, Government of India, to kindly address the distinguished gathering.
His Excellency, Mr. Yu Kin Maung Cho, Distinguished Minister of Industry, Republic of Myanmar, my distinguished colleague in the Union Council of Ministers, Mr. C.R. Chaudhary, Anup Badhavan, Rajan Nawani, Subhash Goyal, Jagdish Mitra, ladies and gentlemen. Today is indeed a historic day whereby we are bringing Indo-ASEAN relationship to a new level. Indo-ASEAN relationship has a deep tradition of history, heritage, culture, and civilization. And therefore, if I have to describe the momentum which we need to push, it must be marked by 3C: culture, commerce, and connectivity. The story of Ramayana and Mahabharata are a part of our psyche. They are also a part of the psyche of ASEAN countries. In fact, I always remember whenever I go to the Bangkok airport, the great statue of Samudra Manthan being installed at the airport. I find a resonance of my own values at the Bangkok airport. Lord Buddha, born in Nepal, got awakening in Bodh Gaya, in my state of Bihar, unleashed a profound movement of compassion and love, which found great resonance in all the ASEAN countries. And Subhash was just mentioning about tourism. I think this tourism is not tourism simpliciter. This tourism is always a constant discovery of values, which has really cemented the bond between Indo-ASEAN countries. I think we need to remember this heritage because, as we always say, you cannot undo history. I would add, you cannot undo heritage as well. And this blending of the history and the heritage with the powerful values of civilization and culture would always continue to reinforce the bonds between our two countries, namely Indo-ASEAN relationship. This offers a challenge and also an opportunity. How can we concretize this relationship into a profound understanding of trade relationship, of meaningful economic relationship, and above all, the most important, empowering the people of these countries? If that perspective is kept in mind, I'm sure we have a lot to offer and we have also a lot to learn from these countries. Subhash, I'm surprised that some of the ASEAN countries are still left from the ambit of e-visa. That I need to look into. I think at the government level, Anup, you are also there. We have to push that some of those countries which are left from e-visa, maybe Myanmar or maybe other countries, we have to ensure that they also come in that canvas. How I see the present scenario? My Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has been advocating great stress on meaningful deepening Indo-ASEAN relationship. He attended the 15th summit in Philippines, also the East Asia summit. But what is more important is that today's our trade relationship is roughly in the realm of $70 billion. How can we increase it? Yes, we are involved in the great initiative of having a regional comprehensive economic partnership. We expect that to be concretized by this year end. Because this regional comprehensive partnership in the economic field, RCEP, will surely create an enormous platform of greater reciprocity. That's how I see it. As an IT minister, I would like to highlight the digital component of our relationship and how we can look forward to. You know, many of the speakers talked about Digital India. Digital India is a profound program to transform India and empower ordinary Indians with the power of technology. That is Digital India. And it has a very declared mission to bridge the digital divide between digital haves and digital have-nots. Above all, to bring in digital inclusion based upon technology which is affordable, inclusive and development. That is the rationale of Digital India. And Digital India, Skill India, Startup India, Smart Cities are all working in unison to make India a technology-empowered society. We are doing a lot of things in that. I need not spell out all. Some brief, concrete features I would like to highlight today where we can work together. The first, obviously, is the infrastructure. We are linking 250,000 gram panchayats, cluster of villages, by optical fiber network. We have already connected more than 100,000, and by the end of this year or the beginning of next year, we hope to complete it. We have a good digital connections with Singapore as the Singapore hub. We have proposed a hub through Myanmar, extending up to Indonesia. We are also open to suggestion to further have digital connectivity via the Bangladesh route. In terms of digital infrastructure, we can work a lot. But the larger issue is digital inclusion, which is creating services and also creating opportunity and resultant empowerment. But ladies and gentlemen, what is the digital profile of India? In a population of 1.30 billion, India is home to 1.21 billion mobile phones, out of which 400 million are smartphones. India has done exceedingly well in a striking innovation of digital identity of Indians, but in the shape of Aadhaar, again in low-cost technology, completely safe and secure with due regard to privacy, backed by a parliamentary law. And today, 1.19 billion Indians are on Aadhaar. 99% of the adult population today are on Aadhaar. And ladies and gentlemen, remember, Aadhaar is a digital identity to supplement the physical identity. Now, and plus we have 500 million internet, again rising and thriving. We came with ideas to empower ordinary Indians, banking the unbanked, funding the unfunded, skilling the unskilled, securing the unsecured by the application of digital technology. We opened nearly 300 million plus bank accounts of the poor, underprivileged. We linked that bank account with Aadhaar, verifiable digital identity. Linked that to the mobile phone and started delivering welfare measures related to the bank account of the poor. More than 300 services have been delivered, and we have saved 57,000 crores, $9 billion plus dollars, which used to be pocketed by fake or ineligible claimants. Digital governance brings in good governance. Then there is other forms of e-governance. Our Prime Minister said, I want governance to be available in the palm of ordinary Indians. Today we came with Umang app, 164 government services ride on that. At a click of a button you can get it. E-hospital, e-scholarship, digital literacy program of making nearly 60 million rural household families digitally literate in the coming 2 years. All these are profound program of digital inclusion. We have unleashed a great program of common service center. 270,000 common service centers today operate from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, giving 300 digital delivery of services, in which 1 million young men and women work. 40,000 are women entrepreneurs out of that, making Aadhaar card, banking, insurance, land records, Indira Gandhi Open Universities. Again, and as a law minister, I have also involved them in DigiLaw to give free legal aid to the deprived and poor people. And the last in this connection is BPO in the small towns of India. And I'm very proud of that initiative of this government. In the last 2 years we started. Today we have got BPO operating in Kohima, in Imphal, in Dibrugarh, in Guwahati, in Patna, Samastipur, Kanpur, Allahabad, and most of all, Srinagar, Badgam, Sopore, which are affected by so-called terrorist people, apart from all over the country. Because we wanted to rescue digital process from Delhi, Mumbai, Gurgaon, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore. No grudge against them. But let digital movement become a mass movement. And based upon that, we have come with the idea of digital economy, raising India to a $1 trillion economy, giving contribution of 20% plus GDP in the whole process of creating New India, and creating nearly 20 million direct and 40 million indirect jobs. That's how we are viewing at. The minister from Myanmar was talking about automobile. As an electronic minister, I must convey to you, India is becoming a big center of electronic manufacturing. In the last 3 years, India has set up only 108 mobile manufacturing factory. There was only 2 when our government has come to power. Automobile electronics, defense electronics, medical electronics, and other forms of solar power panels, etc. Because I see digital electronic manufacturing as an adjunct to larger narratives of digital India. And we are also involved in a great process of citizen engagements, MyGov, which Jagdish talked about. What is MyGov? Young people of India engage with the Prime Minister, also with me, give their ideas for governance, for development. This whole narrative of digital India, what is the start of India? A mandate to all the banks that you have to fund at least one scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, young men and women, to become entrepreneurs. Therefore, Indian digital economy, from services to e-commerce to digital payment to digital delivery of services, all are rising. How can we share those ideas in capacity building in ASEAN countries? India is a leading country in software. Many of the ASEAN countries are leading countries in hardware. How can we complement each other? And one thing I wish to make it very clear with all sense of responsibility. Indian IT companies do not go to display jobs. They create jobs, create capacity building. That is their record in 200 cities of 80 countries, and that will be their record also in ASEAN countries when they will further expand. In capacity building, in local languages, in high-end technology. And we should not be worried at all about new technology, whether it is IoT or machine learning or artificial intelligence. Because ultimately, these technologies are only going to empower ordinary people. And that is our Indian experience. And if I can quote in one line, Indians first observe technology, then they adopt it, then they start enjoying it, and then they become empowered. And this great expansion of the smartphone revolution happening in the hinterland of India is a profound example as to how technology empowers common people. And I'm sure the other form of technology is also going to empower. With this larger scenario, I think there is great scope to work more. One more aspect I would like to highlight in this connection is the great empowerment of our farmers by application of digital technology. The soil health card is becoming a big movement. It's the new innovation of India, finding great resonance, where soil health card is available to ordinary farmer, which clearly defines the health of your soil. Have you over-fertilized yourself? Are you only insisting upon crops which has become unproductive in your soil? Then digital market, eNAM for farmers. Today 400 markets are available, linked digitally for our farmers, and farmers from Puducherry are selling their products to North India and vice versa. I think these enormous platforms create extraordinary opportunity for sharing, for mutual benefit, and also empowerment of common people. That is the larger narrative I would like to share before this august audience today. Yes, conventional trade must go on in the field of merchandise, in the field of services. And what is important is technology has a very uncanny habit of creating not only opportunity, but also destroying barriers. Today we need to revisit our understanding of services. Because at a click of a button, sitting in Delhi, I can reach Latin America or Myanmar or Bangkok, or as the case be, to Manila. In this light, it is important for us to be a little more flexible, a more understanding. I think India's experience of smart cities we wish to share with Myanmar, with the Honorable Minister talked about. We wish to share with other countries. Because the unique opportunity which India brings on the table is not only the enormity of its people, 1 billion plus, extraordinary diversity of location, of environment, from severe cold to great hot. Yet in all this, how can we thrive and make opportunity for a better living of our common people? I think if those ideas are taken into account, I am not going to the larger narratives of technology. Today I was focusing more upon vision, but I'd like to compliment the Ministry of Commerce for organizing this interaction, for having a meaningful dialogue to strengthen our relationship, which is time-tested, and as I said, shared by history, supported by culture, invigorated by our civilization heritage. Thank you. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your address and for sharing your views with us. I now request Mr. Rajan Navani, Chairman, CII Council on Future Business and Managing Director, Jetline Group of Companies, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen, and we have been witness to a very invigorating session on how do we really deepen the mutual ties between India and the ASEAN, particularly in the services area. While we heard a lot around the technology role and digital role, over 1 billion mobiles in India, Janadhan accounts, Aadhaar, I think the opportunities that extend leveraging technology beyond that into tourism, healthcare, and so many others are very meaningful and large opportunities. And I think we all go back empowered that the shared history that we have carried as the ASEAN and India can lead now to new opportunities, leveraging newer confluence of different technologies and capabilities, and enable and deepen the ties between our two countries. With that, I would like to thank our Honorable Minister for Electronics and Information Technology, Law and Justice, Government of India, the Honorable Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, for being here with us this morning, spending your time and sharing such a wonderful overview of what this opportunity entails. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Minister Chaudhary, who has spared his time to be here with us, His Excellency Mr. Kin Maung Cho, the Union Minister of Industry from the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, who pointed out a very large strategic roadmap on what Myanmar is looking at achieving over the next few years. Mr. Anup Wadhwan, the Additional Secretary from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, thank you for all your important inputs on how we can kind of build the entire commerce and services relationship between our two countries. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Jagdish Mitra and Subhash Goyal, who spoke eloquently on some of the areas around technology, digital, and tourism. Finally, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being such a patient audience. Dignitaries from the ASEAN region, our Indian dignitaries who are based in the ASEAN region, thank you and welcome. And we are already run out of time, so I think the next session will start right away. Thank you very much.